Okay, so if someone wants to go to that link and just kind of double check that, you can.
Yeah, it works now.
Yeah, perfect, thank you. All right, so obviously you won't have this host tag right now because you're not a host. And basically just know is that what I've done here is essentially I'm launching the what's it called? The competition. It does, I'll end it like this. I think this is this is UTC time. So maybe I'll change this a little bit. I have to think about that, what UTC time. But I want to end this before our study group on Monday of next week. And so the idea there is that you can submit stuff. And then once we get the project, you don't have to worry about the competition anymore or be distracted by the competition. We can just focus on the project stuff. But I will say is that doing this, I think will help you a lot with the phase 2 project because it does help you kind of interact with, which is why I think having teams would be really cool if you want to join a team because you can kind of work together and see how to do that and get ideas. So on the side, if you go to data right now, you actually will see there's 2 files. There's the train data and there's a test data. And the difference right here, the main difference is that on the training data, you have sales price, which will actually be your target. That's the thing that you're trying to predict. So your train data has, in this case, many, many columns. I will tell you, don't try to use all, like for the record, I would try first starting off with maybe like 10 different, like just pick 10 different features. You can decide how you want to, decide on what those features are, or you could pick randomly on those 10 features. But try that out. And then you're trying to predict the sales price. So if you look at that, you can kind of see a little bit of the distribution, all that good stuff. Once you join the competition, you can download both of these data sets. The test set, you'll notice if you go in the columns here, oops, you'll see that there is no, there is a sales price. Don't look at that yet. Apparently I uploaded the wrong file. But what will happen is that your test set will not have the sales price on it. And so the idea is that you would use the features that are given in the test set to make a prediction for the actual sales price. Does that make sense? So the idea here is you take the training set, you'll do cross-validation, whatever you do, define your model, right? When you think it's pretty good, you would then say, okay, let me go submit this model by basically using my prediction on the test data, right? And that will make your prediction for Y hat your target. And that will be the file you submit. Okay, does that make sense to people? Cool. All right, so I'm going to show you guys how to do that as well. Just to kind of like, I think I mentioned before, like my goal for you all is to go to at least, what was it? Become a contributor. Thumbs up who's now a contributor on Kaggle. Okay, Mike is already. I think most people, the only thing probably like you couldn't do or you might not have done is make a competition, or sorry, not make one competition. Oh, make a competition submission. That would be like once you make this one submission, that would be like your last thing. The other things, you can fill in too. Okay, so so one thing I want you guys all to do, if you haven't already, is you can check out on our, I don't know if I can do this on here. Sorry, I'm kind of like thinking, I don't think I can do this. I think you guys have something where you can make a comment on here, maybe not, but I'm going to make a new notebook. So I'm going to show you something a little bit different that's not a Jupyter notebook. It's actually called a Kaggle kernel. I think it's actually called just Kaggle notebooks now, but it used to be called a kernel, just so you guys know. And basically it's like a Jupyter notebook. So if I click new notebook here, what's really nice is that it's all done online here, and it creates my notebook here, and it actually will include the data. So I don't have to download it and like, load it and stuff like that. It's already built into here. And Kaggle's notebooks, so I'll just say, I'll just call this like starter notebook. Just call it starter. Okay, I have the starter here. And what I'm going to do is like, okay, I'm actually going to make this public. So you can actually make, it's private by default, but I'm going to make it public so you all can check it out later on. So let's see here, I'm going to call it, what's our code? Why can't I type here? No. Sorry, starter F2011121. We have a lot of ones in our code name. Phase 2. Okay, super not helpful, but I'm going to go ahead and make this public now. So then if I copy this link, I can actually you all can look at this notebook too once I actually have a version on here. So you can also add collaborators too. So if you have teammates, you can add other people to also be able to make changes to this notebook and such. So kind of cool. It basically works like a Jupyter notebook. So you can kind of see the same thing that can run. Kaggle already puts this stuff for you. So that way you have NumPy, Pandas. In this case, it also shows you how you can input the data. So I'm going to show you how that works because that's probably the first thing you want to do. So I'll call this like df train is equal to pd.read CSV. And I think I can go input. Oh no. So this is, it's always like you have to do like the right file structure, input, and in this case, it's going to be train. Oh, sorry. Is that long thing? So I'm just pressing tab, which is why it's auto completing. And then I can put train here. And then I'll also do test here. Okay, and actually I'm going to make sure not to include that last one because it looks like there was an extra column in there, but you wouldn't do this part. So all the rows, but everything but the last column. Okay, if I did this right, this should work fine. So now if I do df train dot head, you can see it's just like a data frame like we normally would expect from Jupyter. Okay, and then I can also do df test dot head. Okay, so there we go. I scroll over, there we go. You can see here, good. I don't have sales price here. So I'll update the test file, but know eventually that you won't have a sales price for test. But note that test should be different. Yeah, it looks like I uploaded the same file twice. So test will be different from what you see here, but that would be the main idea. Okay. So what we can do now, we can basically build up that exact notebook. We can import, for example, we can import sklearn, for example. We can import Seaborn, all that good stuff. And this working on it just like, oops, import Seaborn as SNS. Okay, so it's okay. Here. I know. Okay. All right. This is the issue with twins. One's quiet and now the other one's screaming too. But you can basically use the same processing you do for Jupyter Notebook. If you like Jupyter Notebooks, what you can even do is do a file and then download this notebook. So you can actually download this, and this is actually a .ipnb notebook. So I download this, you can actually see that, and then you can use it just like a Jupyter notebook, but like before. Okay, make sense? Okay. All right. So the question is how do you make a submission? Right. Hey babies, I know. Let's see if I can put one down. We'll see how far I can get through this. But all right, so I'm gonna make a really dummy file. So I'm gonna go back to here, and I put in here, I'll put maybe some more details. Oh, good, discussion is now here. All right, so you can make a comment if you wanted to. So I'll do that later. But on the overview, you should see how to make your file should look like this essentially. So what it means is that you need a column, or you need the very first column is your header, which is going to be ID and predicted. It has to be this format. And then the ID will basically be with the test data. So each of these IDs will come from your test data set. And then this predicted part will be your predicted value for whatever your model does. So I'm going to make a really dummy file on this. Is that the way I might do this? Okay, let's say df final predictions is equal to df, and I'm just going to grab just this order, which is the ID. Okay, just do order. And then let's just check out that worked. Oops, it's called df test. There we go. So now I have this this guy right here, and now I'm just going to add. In this case, I'm going to add a new column. This new column would normally be your actual y hat. So remember how you had y hat from the predictions? I'm going to make something up, right? So I'll call this. I'll call this predicted. So it has to be that exact word, otherwise it won't be evaluated. And I'll just call it, I'll just say 10. Okay, so let's see here, df. Oh, sorry. I realized this is this right here is actually just a, sweetie, it's okay. This is actually a series, so that's what's going on here. So let's actually make a real data frame. So df predicted is equal to pd.dataframe. Okay, and now I should be able to have the real data frame. So, okay, good. So you see how we got this. And now this is just the actual ID. I want to add in a predicted thing called predicted equals 10. And then if I see the final prediction, you can see now I predicted. I'm going to do a dot rename columns. So I'm just renaming the columns because this has to be ID right now. So I'm going to make a dictionary. This is order, and that's going to be mapped over to ID. Okay. And if I do this, I got to make sure I save this over. Otherwise, nothing will happen. And now if I do that, we should see. There we go. And you can see all my predictions are just 10, right? So now you actually want a file, right? So does anyone, we hopefully know how to make a file, but if you don't, what you can do is just take that data frame and then convert it to 2 CSV. And then you pass in the name of the file. In this case, I'm just going to call it like my submission dot CSV. Okay. And then one thing I want to do is actually ignore the index because I don't want that in there. So I'm going to say index equals false. And then now I have a file. And now if I actually refresh this, you should see that I have a file right here. Okay, so I'm going to save this version real quick. So I'm going to say, you know, first version. Okay, and what this does when we commit this on here, it actually saves it on Kaggle. So if I have it on public, you can actually see it. If it's on private, you just would be able to see it yourself and see your different versions. So I'm going to save all, and then we'll go over to, once that's done committing, you'll see it go through. It'll take a while, depending how much code you actually have. But what this will look like is something like this. Refresh this. Okay, once this is done, so this is generating, like basically doing, it's like running all, and then it's saving it and then putting it on Kaggle in this case. Again, you can see how long it takes. It's usually about a minute. There we go. So now I can click view, which now if you all were to go over to that link that I sent you all, this one, you will see this exactly, and you can see there's all my work. Obviously, it was very quickly done. You would probably want to like notate and stuff like that for yourself and for other people. And then this guy right here actually generates that file, and that file is actually right here. So actually it's kind of loading up, but you'll see is that this file is right here. And what's cool is that once you have this file, you can actually use this to submit. So you just click submit here and you'll submit this to the competition. So note that it's from this competition. It'll say, you know, you can ask like which notebook you have, and then just basically, you know, if you have different versions, so if you have like different versions, stuff like that, you can choose which one to submit. So you click submit here. And then I think this will actually fail. Well, okay, we'll see. This won't work, but it has been submitted. And so once you have that, you can check view submissions, and you can see here in this case, oh, I did the wrong thing. It should be predicted, or prediction instead of predicted. So if that's the case, like, oh, I made a mistake on here, I could actually go over here back to edit. I'm going to close this tab. So you can see like, oh, I made a little mistake. It should actually be prediction. Okay, and then I'm just going to save this version, commit all. And then eventually that notebook, once it's loaded and everything like that, we'll see that's different, and then I can check out my submissions. So this is kind of like the idea of like how you do a submission on here from a notebook. Okay, does that make sense to people? I know I kind of walked through it pretty quickly. All right, see some thumbs up. Later on, basically you'll have, if your submission actually worked, you will see that you have a private score and a public score. We'll talk about that next. But also, if that worked, you can check to use a final score. If you don't do that, it'll just use your best public score. I'm sorry, you won't actually see private score, I realize, because you guys don't know what the data is, but you will see a public score. And if you can choose which specific model that you want to use by clicking this button here for submission using a final score. Otherwise, we'll just use the best public score model. Okay. So I wanted to show you all like an actual real submission that worked. Let's just go click on this guy. Okay, great comments. All right, I don't know who that is, but okay, good. So go to the file, I can submit here, and then submit. I'll view my submission, and it'll take a while for the actual submission to go through, so you can see it's scoring it. In this case, because I told you I messed up on the test set, so I'll change that up. But if it did work, you'd actually see a public score on here and say, okay, like how well your model did. Okay. You can also, if you go here on the leaderboard, which I don't know, it's kind of freaking out on me right now. It might be because I'm host actually. Oh, it's just because this is my submission. On the leaderboard, if someone does make a submission, you'll actually see, you won't see the private, well, you'll see the private leaderboard, but you won't see anything there. Like it won't show anything because it won't see anything. You'll see your public leaderboard, how well you did. So you'll see a little note here that this leaderboard is calculated with approximately 40% of the test data. And then the final results will be based on the 60%. So I basically have that test.csv, which will have 730 like data points, right? 40% of those data points randomly selected are going to determine your ranking in the public leaderboard, right? So your goal should be like, so trying to do pretty decently on that. The thing is that the other 60% from that test data, you don't know yet until the competition is done. And that's the private leaderboard. So I think I showed a little bit of that last time of like an example competition where you don't want to just do well in the public leaderboard. You want to make sure that you're doing well in the final submission on private leaderboard, which you don't know until already everything's said and done. So that's why the importance of cross-validation here is going to be make sure like you generalize well and use cross-validation, not just the public leaderboard to know if you're doing better. Okay, does that all make sense to people? Cool. Some last things you should know, like for example, I showed I had my notebook here. You'll see now if you make notebooks here too and you make them public, other people can look at them, and then you can actually Kaggle has a system of like you can upvote things, like especially like notebooks. So if you think someone's did a good notebook, you can like upvote them, that kind of thing. You can get little medals, like little gamification and stuff like that if you get enough upvotes. So if you're willing to like kind of share a little bit with each other, you guys can upvote, for example, each other and say, oh, like this looks really good. Like, you know, I want a little upvote. You can also, for the record, if you're on here, you can upvote. And note that you can also check different versions. So you can see I have 2 different versions here. Now you can kind of check a little bit like what you did. And you can even see, for example, check the difference between, you know, version 1 and version 2. And then you can see, for example, where exactly you've changed things. So it can be really convenient. And then again, if you're like, I'm really comfortable with like Jupyter notebooks, this is cool, but I now want to actually, let's say you want to take this notebook and use it for yourself. You can actually go here and then download that code and it'll actually download that notebook specifically. You can do whatever you want. Just know that it doesn't download the data with it. So you would have to download the data separately and then manage it. Okay, cool. All right, so we're exactly at time, but any questions? All right, so hopefully you guys are excited a little bit. I'm kind of excited to see what you guys can do. I'm going to change out that test date CSV since you can't really do anything with it right now. I'll update that and message out. But my goal for you all is, you know, do just once a day. You could literally take this notebook. You can actually, I think there's a button here that's like fork or copy and edit. You can copy this notebook and start with that one and just have a submission. Submit one thing, even if it's literally like I had equals to 10, which obviously is going to be very, very wrong. But I think you can very quickly kind of figure out how you can, you know, at least get a very basic notebook, even without making really strong predictions. Okay, for example, the one that we use for R squared, you know, what's the worst model that we could do? I think, well, it's not the worst model, but like that really bad model that we use to compare for R squared. I'd like to see someone try that out. Okay. Yeah, and of course, like I said, you can do discussions and all that good stuff. All right. Cool. All right, so this is the end of time for study group. I'm going to stop the recording here unless there's any last questions.